Hi class, today we're going to continue our unit on geometry with a lesson on quadrilaterals. This is found in SWON 11-4 and 11-5. Our learning goal or objective is today I will classify quadrilaterals by lines and angles. So our first vocab word is congruent. That means the same size of equal measure. Quadrilateral is a closed shape with four straight sides. So today we have this diagram of shapes. So our first one is our first quadrilateral is a trapezoid. So that means that there has to be at least one pair of opposite sides that are parallel. Remember, two parallel lines are lines, let's just put next to parallel, two lines that look like that. They will never intersect. So on this one, there's at least one set right here. So there's just one set on this one. There could be another shape that does not look like that and actually has two sets of parallel lines. That's still considered to be a trapezoid. There's nothing unique or special about the angles of a trapezoid. A parallelogram is, we hear the word parallel. That means that both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. What does that mean? That means that they are the same size. So these two are the same size and these two sides are the same size. Both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So I have to have two sets of parallel lines. So opposite angles are equal. So this one and the opposite one across, those are the same exact degree, and this one and this one are going to be the same exact degree. A rhombus means that all sides are congruent, all sides are equal, and then both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So this side is parallel and this side is parallel. Opposite angles are equal again with a rhombus. A rectangle, both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. So again, these two are the same and these two are the same. And then both pairs are parallel. So these are parallel, these are parallel. There are also four right angles. And then there's a square. So all sides are the same. These ones are parallel, these ones are parallel, and there are four right angles. Okay, a square can have more than one name. A square can be a rectangle. A square can also be a rhombus. A square can also be called a parallelogram. And a square can also be called a trapezoid because it fits all of the criteria that are listed. Okay? Rectangles can sometimes be rhombuses. Rectangles are always parallelograms, and rectangles are always trapezoids. Rhombuses are always parallelograms, and they are always trapezoids. And then parallelograms, they're always trapezoids. We cannot go the other way. They are not always the other way. Okay, I have a hierarchy sheet that was given to you. We're going to cut out on the solid black line, and this just helps us identify shapes. So a quadrilateral is a closed plane shape with four sides and four angles. We just talked about it, and we went down the hierarchy of the trapezoid earlier. We talked about what a trapezoid is. We did not talk that there's an isosceles trapezoid that gets more specific. Isosceles trapezoid is like an isosceles triangle where it looks like an ice cream cone with the bottom half chopped off. So these two sides have to be equal. So there's one set of equal sides. And then we talked about a parallelogram, a rhombus, a square, and a rectangle. We show that it goes this direction. And then this, if we go work backwards, then the square can also be a rectangle and a rhombus. But if you're working this way, it's only that name of the shape. So if we work backwards, the square is also the rectangle and the rhombus. The rhombus is a parallelogram. The parallelogram is a trapezoid. Okay? A rectangle is a parallelogram. a parallelogram is a trapezoid. The one we didn't address is the kite. That is a quadrilateral with no parallel sides and two pairs of adjacent equal sides. That means that these two sides are the same and these two sides are the same. Okay, so we're going to cut this out. We will be using this a lot. We also use this a lot. These are very important notes to glue in today. Okay, our first step is to determine if the sides are congruent. Step number 2 is determine if the sides are parallel or perpendicular. And then step 3 is determine what type of angles are in the quadrilateral. Okay, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna get out my input model. So it says, what type of quadrilateral is this? Explain your answer. So first, I'm gonna determine if the sides are congruent. It shows me right here, I have 4 equal sides. I'm going to determine if they're parallel or perpendicular. I have 2 sets of parallel lines. And then I'm going to determine the angles. So I look here, I can put this piece of paper in that corner. So I see 4 right angles. Okay. I'm going to be as specific as possible. I can say this is a quadrilateral. I can also say that this is a trapezoid because there's at least 1 set of parallel lines. There were 2. I can say that it is a parallelogram because there's 2 sets of parallel lines and that there are 2 pairs with opposite sides that are congruent. I can also say it is a rhombus because there are 4 sides that are congruent. I can say that it's a rectangle because both pairs of opposite sides are congruent and both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. I can also say it is a square. This is the most specific. It's a square because it has 4 right angles, 4 sides that are congruent, and both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So this is a square. I'm going to be boxing the most specific. I'm going to also say also known as rectangle, parallelogram, a rhombus, a trapezoid, and a quadrilateral. Okay, so we're going to be noting the most specific, but on your test you might see what other names it might be, and in 5th grade you'll for sure be listing all of the names of that shape. So it is a square, but it's also known as the following. Okay, we're going to do the next one. What shape is this? Explain why it is not a rectangle. So we're going to see how many sides are congruent. This side is the same as this side? That does not seem to be the case, but it says that they're the same, so I'm going to see with my little trick that I do. That is not true at all. Okay, so these are not the same length. I don't know why it is labeled that they are the same length. So it has 1 set of parallel lines. It has no congruent sides. And there are 2 right angles. Sorry about that. There are 2 right angles. So I'm going to look at my chart here, and there's only 1 pair of parallel lines. This one goes on to saying that there's 2 sets of parallel lines. So the only option is that it is a trapezoid. And I'm going to go back to my hierarchy chart just to make sure if I could get a little bit more specific. It says 1 pair of parallel lines, and then there's going to be non-parallel sides in equal length. These 2 are not an equal length, so this is just a trapezoid. And if it was to other names for this shape, the only other name is a quadrilateral. Okay. We're going to get out our guided practice. What quadrilateral is this? Explain your answers. So I see this side and this side are equal, this side and this side are equal. So 2 sets of equal sides. 1 set of parallel lines, 2 sets of parallel lines. Okay, and then these angles are the same, and these angles are the same. So now I'm going to pull out my note from this piece. It is a trapezoid because there's at least 1 pair of opposite sides that are parallel. It is a parallelogram because I have 2 sets of parallel lines. It is not a rhombus because not all the same sides are the same length. It is not a rectangle because there's no 4 right angles, and we know it's not a square. So it is a parallelogram. We're going to box that, and we're going to put other names. Other names would be a trapezoid and a quadrilateral. Okay, what shape is this? And explain why the shape is not a rhombus. Okay, so I see this side and this side are the same length, and this side and this side are the same length. So 2 sets of equal sides. And then these 2 are parallel and these 2 are parallel. 2 sets of parallel lines. And then I see 1, 2, 3, 4 right angles. Okay. Has at least 1 set of parallel lines, so it is a trapezoid. It has 2 sets of parallel lines, and the opposite sides are congruent, so it is a parallelogram. It is not a rhombus because not all the sides are the same length. It is not a rhombus because not all sides are the same length. Okay, and it is a rectangle because it has 4 right angles, and then it has the parallel 2 sets of parallel lines, and then 2 sets of congruent sides. So it is a rectangle. And then our other names would be parallelogram, trapezoid, and quadrilateral. Okay, but again, we're looking for that word rectangle. Okay, you have 1, 2 homework problems, and then rate your understanding. On your homework, I want to see the most specific name boxed, and I want to see the other names as well. Make sure you're answering the questions fully.